Good evening, dear students. I'm gonna share part of the information today. Okay. So, how far do you read? You find?
Yeah.
Close your books. Okay. Close your books. Let's get started. Today, this is going to be the objective for the lesson. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to explain the steps and procedures during fluency activity. Okay? Now, for this, we are going to describe first the stages, okay, that a fluency activity has to go through. Then, we are going to talk a little bit about the type of error correction we need to provide to the students while they are developing fluency activities. And finally, the last part is going to be about how we have to scaffold, support, or help our students. Okay? So, the topic today is going to be again fluency activities and how we should develop those. Now, when I was preparing to be a teacher, one of the quotes that really impressed me was this one. Okay? Supposedly this is a comment made by a teacher student. Someone was about to be a teacher, okay? And he said, referring to his students, they need the language practice, not me. Okay? So this was very impressive to me when I was at the beginning of my teaching experience, when I was starting to teach. What's your interpretation? Why do you think the student said this? What do you example? The student commented and said, okay, they need, referring to his students, they need a language practice, not me. What's your interpretation?
Well, I think the teacher.
Yes, this is the teacher speaking.
The teacher wanted to say that the talking teacher time should be the teacher talk time should decrease, and when a student develops into a class, the language should increase.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What else? What comes to your mind from this quotation?
Well, every time I can notice that the teachers, if think about the most we do as a teacher is the less we do the students. And as a result of that, most of the time we focus on the students, how long they can practice some activity.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any comment?
Well, I agree with my classmates, and yeah, that's because of the importance the importance that teacher gives to the future students here in class.
Okay, I think this also gives us what you said is really true. Okay, but this also gives us some idea of what is the purpose of education in general, which is not your kind. Please check it. As you probably know, we have moved in education from an education that is focused just on the teacher and the teacher knowledge to what the students are able to do after going through the process of learning. Okay? So, going back to the objective today is going to be about fluency activities. So, basically a fluency activity has to follow the following steps, okay? There should be planning on the side of the teacher, okay? The day before, we have to review the material if we are going to use some material. And we have to be clear also on the objective. Okay? When we are already in the classroom, we start the activity. Okay? Come here. Have a seat, please. Right? As I was telling you, when we are already in the classroom, we start the fluency activity by admitting. The next step is setting out the conditions of the activity, running the activity, closing the activity, and also doing a post activity. In the first section, which is the lead-in, we need to motivate and encourage students to participate actively. Okay, so here's when we preview the activity, we probably provide an interesting question that is going to make students relate the activity with their personal lives. The second step is setting up the stage. This means we have to create mentally for students the conditions in which a conversation or a communication practice has to take place. The next step is, in this case, running the activity. For running the activity, we start by delivering the instructions. Okay, we tell the instructions to the students. It is also good practice to check the comprehension. No? If I tell the instruction, then I may ask basically a very weak student and a very strong student to retell the instructions back. Just to see that, come here. Just to see that my instructions have been clearly understood. When checking instructions, it's always advisable not to simply ask a yes/no question, like, did you understand? Are the instructions okay? It's much better to use a WH question that is going to provide me with clear information. Now, if I say, in this activity, you have to discuss the pros and cons of living abroad. Yes? I'm going to provide you with an example, okay? If I say, no, in this activity, you have to discuss the pros and cons of living abroad, and you're my student, I say, okay, so what is it what you're going to do here? Please reply.
So we're going to discuss about pros and cons to live abroad.
Yes, and probably I might also say, okay, please complete a chart, make a list. So are you going to complete a summary? A chart. Okay, so well, that's very simple. That's what we should be doing. And the next step is, closing the activity. It's very advisable to have a final outcome, a real product, okay? In this little example I'm describing, probably my students should present a final report coming maybe in the front or to one more student saying, okay, these are my final conclusions, okay? We have discussed in groups and we consider that one of the advantages, is to have more experiences. A disadvantage is that you will miss your family. Okay, that's the final product that students should achieve. Okay. Now, once this is done, okay, during the fluency activity, the teacher role, when we call during, it seems that simply the students are going to be working and the teacher is just relaxing or checking paper. No, that's not true. Okay, the teacher has the best chance to collect information from the students. Okay, basically errors. Okay, maybe ideas that can be saved for later discussion. Okay, monitoring in this point of the lesson is very, very important. Okay, and when everything is done, if you have checked and collected the errors systematically, you might prepare for that very same moment an activity to confirm and help check the errors, or you might also save that information for the following day. So if you choose to do it right immediately, you could also ask your students to reduce the language. This means, okay, I collect the errors, yes, and then once the activity is finished, I come to the board, write like 5, 7 systematic errors, the most common errors, yes, I correct them with the whole class, and I might take 2 or 3 minutes to say, okay, practice the activity again, but this time, of course, don't include the errors you've been making, okay? That would be it. So, we have 5 stages. Okay, do you remember the ones I mentioned? We said leading. Okay, then we said running the activity. Okay, then yes, there is something. Yes. Thanks for your help. So we set up, no? We set up the activity, then we run the activity. It's a final product, and finally we do a post activity, which can include the errors, no? So I'm going to give you just 1 minute, no, 2 minutes. In your opinion, which percentage of, let's say, teacher talk time and student talk time is the most appropriate in each stage? Okay, so for 2 minutes, well, you can give a number, okay, 20%, 80%. What would be the acceptable percentage in these two areas? Okay? Please.
Teacher, we should discuss your indicators.
Yeah.
The first stage could be
and the 20%
I think it should be 40% of teacher time, actually 60% of the student time. That's the stage where which students will comprehend what we need.
I think the teacher has been what do we do in that class?
For example, there's activity here. Teacher said, well, for example, give the time where 90%. Maybe the teacher will say,
Okay, now let's get together again and share your ideas, okay? For the leading, for the starting point of the activity, what percentage should we have for teacher talk time and student talk time?
For us, teacher talk time is 70%
Yeah,
and students 30%.
30%. Okay. Yeah. What about the setting up the context?
Context.
Someone else, please. Yes?
I would like to say something about leading.
Yes.
In my opinion, it should be 40% of teacher to time and 60% of student to time.
And what are the reasons?
Because during that stage, the student should form the base of the learning. So the teacher just should ask, as you said, ask a question, and the student should think about that and say their ideas.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right too, because ideally here we want to activate students' experiences, not necessarily the teacher. However, it might be a useful strategy also for a teacher, let's say, depending on the activity. Actually, it depends a lot on the nature of the activity. I might start, for example, a grammar class by telling a story about myself in which I am including, okay, in which I am including ideas or directed to the grammar I want to teach. In the case of fluency activity, however, probably we need students to be more connected to the topic. So yeah, it's like more 40 for the teacher and 60 for the student. So the nature of the activity is going to help you determine that. What about the setup? Probably the same, right? Maybe 40 here, 60 there. Running the activity. Yeah, here is probably 10, right? Here, 90. There is always a 10, especially when the teacher is monitoring. It's a good idea to jump in, no? Maybe students need one more idea, no, to continue talking, or probably there is an error that is necessary to be corrected, okay? Or students, especially in high intermediate courses, students might start, solving the problem, completing the activity with any language, but not the language that you want them to practice. So jumping in and say, okay, remember we are practicing in this activity, I don't know, expressions to agree or disagree, or expressions to convey doubt or disbelief. So that's what we want, okay? So the teacher needs to jump in from time to time. What about closing the activity?
Maybe 90% of the teacher to time.
Okay.
Because there the teacher is going to give feedback to everyone.
I think that would be here, right?
Yeah, in the school capital.
Yeah, but not exactly 90, that's kind of high. But here in closing the
I
activity,
think it's more teacher than student.
in closing the activity, the students are performing. They are presenting the report, the summary, yes, the final product. So still, but still the teacher, okay, can wisely use the time, no? Yes, and say, okay, if one of my students after the fluency activity is giving a nice report, that can be, the source for a new discussion, right? Yes. Okay. So we have seen so far 5 steps, no, to present and guide a fluency activity, starting by the lead-in, setting up the activity, running the activity, close the activity, and the post activity, which is error correction. In the next part of today's lesson, you're going to see error correction, how we should correct errors during the fluency activity. Okay?